So databags, and if time permits, we would look at okay. So these are the three topics which I think we'll try to focus for today. The first one is data bag. The second one is custom resources. If you have to develop your own resources, not use the chef's one. So how can you develop? There was one more way ahead, but now chef focuses towards lightweight resource provider, right? And then we have something called as unattended bootstrapping. Okay. So this is typically meant for VM or cloud infra. You cannot really think of it in physical server kind of setups because there the things are very much predictive, right? So fine. So let us try to understand what this data bag is all about. Do you remember a couple of days ago we have set the Tomcats username and password? Yes. And over there I have written the username as admin and password as password or whatever it is, admin 123 whatever. So for the person who has access to my cookbook can easily make out what is the password. And generally we store our cookbooks in Git and everyone has a read-only access on that. So the problem with that approach is writing your passwords in plain text is not really a secure approach, right? So basically we should have some sort of encryption, right? So data bag comes into play over there. Data bag is all about protecting sensitive info. Doesn't mean passwords, it could be other sensitive information also. Whenever you want to encrypt the data, you can use databags, right? And to encrypt the items, right, you can use secret string or secret file. To protect this, you can use secret string or secret file. If you remember, attribute was basically declared majorly at a cookbook level. Yes or no? Yeah. So, but the data bag will be created at node level, or to be very specific, data bag will be created at a server level. I shouldn't even call it as a node level. Roles and environments are typically attached to the nodes, but data bags are central towards servers, right? So whenever I create a data bag, okay, and basically all the items within the data bags are accessible to other people also. Yeah, but they need to know the secret string or a secret file. Okay, good. Now let us try to see if I have to create a data bag item, how does it work? You can take two approaches. One is you can go with what we have over here, or obviously as usual refer databags. Okay, so this is how you basically do it, and we'll follow this manual approach, not the approach from here, because I'll tell you what is an advantage. Yeah, so let me go ahead. We had a chef repo, and remember in the same chef repo we have created roles and environments. Yes or no? Yeah, exactly at the same level I'll be creating something called as data underscore bags. This is a whole directory for data bags, right? And within that every folder will become a data bag. Every folder will become a data bag, and every file will become something called as data bag item. So within this folder, every folder is a data bag, and every file in that folder will become data bag item. So let me create something called as admins over here. So my data bag's name is admins, and in this I can write data bag items. Data bag items is an individual file, and if you scroll down, it tries to tell that individual file is nothing but a JSON. Individual file is nothing but a JSON. So let me create a file over here, which let me use this touch admin underscore details dot JSON. Okay, and whenever I want to edit this file, you can open this file, and remember it has to have a structure. One thing that is mandatory is it needs to have a JSON file with a key called as ID, and generally it always makes sense for you to create a file with the exact file name over here, right? If you don't do that, it will not haunt you now, but it will haunt you soon. Okay, let us see what that is all about. And then I'll put something like password is equal to admin@123. This was our password, right? Yeah. You can put any information. It is just not one key. You can put multiple keys over here, and then you can access them. So I have two keys over here. One is ID, the other one is password. For the people who don't know what a JSON is, I think I'm quite sure that you know what a Ruby hash is. Yes. So the only thing which I've changed in the JSON file is in Ruby hash, we used to write something like this. Now I'm just replacing that big comma with colon. That's it. That becomes JSON. Right? Rest of all are exactly the same things. Remember, we need to have a key called as ID, and there needs to be one more, any other key for that matter. Okay. Now, till this point, our data is in which format? Plain text format. Yeah. So let us see what happens now. Now let me open PowerShell over here. Okay. And then you have whole set of commands over here. You can put any amount of data bag items, any stuff, all of that. But whenever you are encrypting, you can encrypt it with a key or a password. The choice is yours. Now, how do I encrypt them? You have all of this, right? I'll search for something called as hyphen secret. Wonderful. Now, knife, data bag, hyphen help. I'm following the same structure what we have done for knife role also. We have done knife role hyphen help, and then we have found out that there are some commands over there. That is the same thing which I'm trying to search. Not all the people are using it, but still it is good that we understand this stuff. Yeah, I know still many people who write plain passwords in the files, and they don't give access to others. That's how the thing, many of the organizations are following it, but Chef has something towards it. Okay, let me open that. It's okay, we know what it is. We have used from file already, right? The command looks something like this: knife data bag from file, whatever is your bag name and whatever is your file's name. Okay, so let me stop it. Oh, are you seeing this? This is what we are trying to use. So knife data bag from file. What is your bag's name? Admins. What is your file's name? What was it? Some admin details.json, right? Let me use this. Now, in the meantime, let me log in into manage.chef.io. The object you are looking for, no data bag admins could be found. Is it? Is my structure right? Admins and admin details from. You have to exactly have the structure, otherwise it will not find it. Even if you miss a simple thing, it will say that I don't find or I don't know what you're speaking about. So data underscore bags, admin. Okay. We have this stuff. Yeah, looks good. Strange. Okay. Yeah. 1 minute. I just need one more thing before I do this. Knife, data bag, create. I forgot creating the data bag. Okay, because on the server you need to have that. Admins. Go into the policy, and in policy you will have a section called as data bags, and here you should be seeing data bags, and within the data bags you should be seeing data bag items. Still is it failed? Oh, no. Okay. Now let me try to run this. I'm seeing admins, right? Okay. Admins doesn't have any items at this moment, but we can have them. Right. You can create all of this from UI and download it to your file and then also make it work, but that is not a sensible idea. Okay. So it says it has updated the data bag items. Okay. Fine. Are you seeing data bag items over here? But I'm seeing the password straight away. Yeah. Now let us see. I'll just make this change. Data bag from file, and I will say that secret or the password secret, whatever I'm setting to this, I'll call it as. So this is my secret for secret string for encrypting it. It says it has updated. Let me go ahead, refresh this. Are you seeing the password as password admin at the rate 123 now? So by looking at this, the users will not be able to make out what your password is. Yes or no? So this is the first step. But we still have one more problem. The problem is I have done it on the server, but if I get into my local system and edit this file, it is still admin at the rate 123. You need to also change that locally, right? Yeah. So let us see what is it. So for that, you just need to add one more stuff. 1 minute. I think I forgot that. What is it? There is something called as hyphen local or. Okay. Let us ask for help. Knife, data bag, from file, hyphen help. There is no point in remembering this stuff. Let us ask basically knife itself. You just add one more argument to it. Then what happens is it will not only upload the details to the server, it will also save your or change your local file, right? And whenever it is changing the local file, it searches for a file in the admins folder right? Okay, yeah, local mode, absolutely. So it searches for a file in your admins folder with id.json. What is the my id value? Admin underscore details.json. So for example, by mistake, if you have not written this file as admin underscore details.json and my.json, then you will be seeing two JSON files in this. One is your my.json, the other one is admin underscore details.json. So it is not a good idea to create a data bag with a different file name other than id.json. That's because, let me prove you that. Okay. So let us assume that even though it had that, I have changed it to something like admin.json. Now is my name matching the id? No. Okay. So good. Hyphen hyphen local. They have given the error. Could not find. So wonderful. At least they have fixed it. Till if you just update it to the last version, what happens is you will get a new file called as admin underscore details.json with an encrypted value. Now they are validating it. Good. Things change. So let me save this. Now I think I should have a file over there which is called as admin underscore details.json. Yeah. Okay, man. There was no validation earlier. It used to create two files. In your organization, you might not be working on the latest version. So please do remember that it is always a good idea to create a file with id.json, right? If you're working on a older version of Chef, it doesn't give you an error. It basically creates one more file over there, which is admin underscore details.json. In that, you will have encrypted stuff and your other name will not have an encrypted text. That's how it works. All right. Now let me get into it. You got the change locally. Now this change, put it into your GitHub. All right. Now for the person who looks at your system also is not knowing what a password is. And for the person who is looking at your server also doesn't know what your password is. If you remember, our password was admin at the rate 123. No one by looking at it can make out that it is admin at the rate 123. Good. Till that it is fine. Now I have to use this in a recipe. Yes. The whole point is I have to use that in a recipe. So what is the syntax for that? Let us see. Are you seeing this? Wherever you want to read this value in your recipe, just let us assume that I want password at some point. Let me replace all of this. Assume that this is my recipe and I've written something like package of get, okay, do action install, okay, and then I need to basically use this password somewhere. So let us assume that I want to use it over here. So before that, what I'll try to do is dollar, or dollar is not required, sorry, password, yeah, equals to databag underscore item of. What is my databag's name? Admins, right? And in admins, what is the item which I'm looking out at? Admin underscore details, that the ID, yeah. And what is your secret? That's it. That's how you get the values. You have to just pull in the values by using this kind of a syntax. There is one catch over here. This is good if you use a secret string. What will you do if you use a secret file? because I can encrypt the data using a SSH. You can go to the SSH and create a encrypted key and encrypt the data using that also. In that case, remember, whenever we use secret file, okay, password మీరు qt తో వాడాల pem file తో వాడారు. You have created your own pem file and you have used that for encryption. In that case, first step is ensure secret file is available in all nodes, otherwise this will not work. Before you use this in your recipe, this secret file should be present in all of your nodes. Somehow you have to copy it, right? And rather than using a qt over here, what you will try to tell is, you will try to tell io dot read and path of your secret file, wherever your secret file is in your node, just give that. In that case also you will get the password, right? So whenever you want to read the password, you have to make the change like this, and whenever you are encrypting the passwords, use the data bag items. Is everyone using that? Might not be, but is this very important when you think of certifications and interviews? Yes, it is, right? In some companies it might be really a sensitive information. In that case you might need to work on these things, right? So what is the whole point of data bag now? Encrypting sensitive information. Sensitive information essentially doesn't mean passwords, it could be some other things also, right? So for that case, what we use data bags. So what is a data bag? Data bag is nothing but a folder structure. You go to the root of your repository, your starter kit, you create a data underscore bags. Within that you create a folder. That folder will become your data bag, right? Every file which you are going to write within that will become a data bag item, right? And whenever you want to access, right, whenever you want to create, you will be just saying that knife create data bag first, and then data bag from file, just like how you have used for environment, and then you will be passing hyphen secret or hyphen secret file. There are two options, right? So you can use any one of them. Upload the data to the string and then update it locally also, hyphen local mode, right? And then whenever you are using it in your code, in your recipes, use this syntax. That's how you use it. Am I clear on this? Okay, remember these names. That's it. Before you go to the interview, you need to know that there is a method called as data underscore bag underscore item, which can pull the things from data bag, right? For creating the data bag, the structure is no different. You have to create a data bag, again the same structure. Even for creating environments, if you remember, knife roll from file, this is what we have used. For creating roles, same thing, knife roll from file. Yeah, even for data bag, knife data bag from file. But we are passing two extra arguments. One is what is basically the item, what is basically the secret which you are trying to set. Since we want to update it locally, we are using hyphen local. Am I clear on this? So this is the way to protect sensitive information. Go ahead. This is a hash. You can use off. The value which you get out of it is, this is a whole hash. JSON is it not a hash? Hash the key value pairs untaya. So let us assume that you have more than one value. Just use this structure whenever you want to use it. Password off. It is a hash, man. That's how it works. What you are pulling in, you are pulling in a hash. Remember, the JSON structure itself looks like a Ruby hash. So what you get out of it is a hash, and you can use off syntax and then play around with that. That's how it works. Yeah. Okay. You need to change the file name. Yeah. So remember, in the latest version, they have given this as an error. In the older versions, it was not an error. And whenever you go with working on Chef, it is not that everyone will be able to work on a latest and a greatest version, right? In some earlier versions, you might get two files, which is not a decent job, right? So data bags religiously follow that. I am going to create a file, which is a data bag item, which is id.json. Whatever the name of your id is, .json. And remember, in a data bag, in one folder, you cannot have two files with the same id, because that is an identifier, right? And you cannot have two files having the same identifier. Am I clear on this? For all of your database passwords, Tomcat passwords, right? Whenever you are creating the user passwords, anything will be in database. If you don't like this approach, there are some external tools also, but if you are in Chef, this is the most easiest tool, right? I'm not saying that there are no other workarounds, but this is what Chef has offered you. Okay. Can we decrypt the password in the case we forgot the password? Yes, you can. Okay. In the case of what? You forgot the password or the key, secret. Secret, if you forget, there is no way on earth to get it, because that's how it is. Encryption, whenever you encrypt it, it is a what do you call symmetric cryptography. So what is symmetric cryptography? For encrypting and decrypting the information, you are using the same key, right? So whether to encrypt or to decrypt, you need to know that your secret was qt. If you forget that, there is no way on earth to recover it. If there is a way to recovering it, that is a security loophole. All right. So that's how things work. Yeah. You will. Encrypt. Are you seeing anything called as decrypt over here? I don't see it. No, they are not given it. Yes. Okay. Generally, in Ansible, you have. In Ansible, you have encrypt and decrypt. But here there is only encrypt option. That's what they have given. Yeah. Okay. So when do we use databags? Are we clear? Databags are at a cookbook level. Am I right? Please remember that. Right? Attributes offer basically at a cookbook level, but databags are at a server level. And you can create a databag once in a server and use it in all of your servers. Right? Assuming you know the secret or a secret file. If you don't know the secret, even if you can access the databag, it is of no use. Right? Okay. Right then. Now let us get into the next interesting thing. What is this? When we want to change the password, yeah, change it. Change it, upload it again. So for example, let us assume that you have this file. Okay. You have this. What I'll do is, I know that it is a password. Let us assume that I want to change it to admin@1234. Copy the contents over here. Admin@1234. Can't you upload it again? That's how the things work. Yeah. Okay. Now you just execute the same command again. So you will get the local mode changed and server also. Okay. So whatever I'm speaking right now for the next 15 or 20 minutes might be sensible to some of you. Many of you might not like it, but it is fine. Right? So this might not be done or might be done by anyone. I'm not sure about it. Right? But for the people who have been working generally in organizations, I don't see them using custom writing their own resources. They use resources. But Chef gives you a way to write your own resource. But there is a certain structure towards it. Whenever you want to write a resource, there is a certain structure towards it. So let me quickly go ahead and create a cookbook first. Chef, generate cookbook. Yesterday, while we were using one of the supermarket demo, there was something like py_python or py_runtime. That is a package which these guys have written on their own. So if you want to write some sort of resource like that, what is that you are supposed to do? You are not doing anything new, but you are doing something differently. That's it. That's the whole point. Okay. So let me get into lwrp demo. Let me execute chef generate command. I want to see the options. Okay. Are you seeing anything called as LWRP and resource? Right? Resource was an older way of doing the same thing. LWRP is a easier and a refined way of writing your own custom resource. Right? You can use anything, both are good, but LWRP is something which people are preferring these days. Right? So let me go ahead and generate something called as chef generate LWRP. We need to see the basic syntax for that, right? Yeah. Okay. So fine. So what is trying to tell us from next version you are supposed to use this, but whatever it is, chef generate LWRP and then part to cookbook name and options. If you see that is not different, so let us go ahead. Chef generate LWRP dot and then what is the other thing which we need to, need to give some name, right? So let me call it as lamp. I'm creating a lightweight resource provider called as lamp. Okay, good. Let me open Visual Studio Code over here. Are you seeing anything in new folder? And in that lamp.rb. Okay, fine. Now just click on this page. We have to follow a particular structure over here. See, remember, whenever you are writing a resource, what is that? Every resource will have action. Do you agree to me on that? Yes. And then resource will have attributes and resource will have actions. Now you are writing your own resource. So you also need to define what are the valid actions and what are the properties which you are going to take. And that is what this documentation is all about. And if you scroll down, he tries to tell that whenever you want to write a recipe, just define something like this. I am going to have the following properties. Property, property name, what is the type of it, and what is the default value. Remember, action has a default value called as install. How do you define that? You define that by writing something like that, right? And name, there is a property called as name. There is a property called as package underscore name. There is a property called as what do you source, destination. How do you put all of them? Just by defining something like that. All right. Come down. And there is something called as action. So whenever someone chooses this action, what has to happen? That is what is there in the action stuff. Right. So for example, let me basically look at this structure and then let us try to write something like that. So he is trying to write his own resource. In his resource, he tries to tell that there is a property called as home page, which is a string. And the default value of that is hello world. Am I clear on this? This has the property. And action has two values. One is create, the other one is delete. So he says whenever he wants to do a create, just do package, restart the service by passing enable and start, and then create a file with the following content. Whenever he tries to tell the delete, he is trying to tell that package httpd delete. Simple. So looking confusing? Okay. All these days what you are used to write is you are on this side of the world where you are using resources. Now you are creating a resource. So whenever you are creating a resource, what will you do? You will try to mix up multiple things and try to give an action over here. Right. And now that is fine. Now whoever wants to use this, what is the name of the cookbook which you have? Is the name of his cookbook is example co. The name of the resource is site. So example co underscore site. So that's the resource's name. give the name of the resource. If you remember, he had a property called as home page, and there were two actions which were create and delete. Is he not the same thing which he is using? Yeah. And whenever you are basically creating, this is how you write it. Now let us do the same thing. So property. Okay. You can define any property for whatever intention it is. I am basically trying to create a property just for fun. So I have a property called as fun. Okay. So which is a, I think I have to follow the same syntax. String. And then default value of it is simple. If you want, you can define further properties. Yeah. And then what are the actions which you are supposed to do? The action which I want to do is install. And whenever some user wants to use an action on your resource, what should happen? So for that, you have this syntax do. So whenever someone says action, do this package Apache 2 action install service Apache 2. Okay. I'm writing multiple actions at one shot. One is enable and then start. Simple. Yeah. Now I am writing one more action. Action uninstall. Right? Do. And whenever he says uninstall package Apache 2, and I will say uninstall, I will say purge, whatever that makes sense. So what is that I have written now? I have written a reusable resource. And if someone wants to use install Apache, he need not write that code anymore. So what he has to do is, okay, the usage code will look something like this. So what is my cookbook's name? lwrp demo underscore. What is my resource's name? Lab. Give the name to the resource, any name. So testing. It is testing, not resting. Yeah. Do. And remember, I have created a property called as fun. So I can use fun. And for the fun, I can pass any value. Right? And then action. So whenever chef sees something like this, it will get into a cookbook called as lwrp, and in that it will try to see if there is a resource called as lamp, and in that lamp there is an action called as install. So it will come to here, and whatever is there in this action part will be executed. That is how resources work. Yeah. Earlier to this, it was not this simple. Before the lightweight resource providers came, you had to write a Ruby block. You had to import Ruby statements. So that was all the difficulty which we had in the earlier versions of Chef. But now it is very much simple, right? You can take any cookbook and then basically convert into some of your custom resources. Is it really difficult? You have to just define what are the possibilities, right? So for example, let us assume that you are speaking about Java underscore deployment. You can write a resource called as deploy, right? And your cookbook's name might be Java, right? So, or var underscore deployment. And then let me try to do that. Shall I create one more resource for that? It is fun, basically. So I'll call it as var deploy. Okay. So whenever we deploy the var, what is that we do? We copy a var file from some place into the Tomcat's home directory. Yeah. So rather than doing that every time, what I do is I write a reusable resource. And whoever wants to do this, he'll be calling by lwrp demo underscore var deploy, because that is my resources name. In that I might have actions called as install or deploy, right? Redeploy, remove, something like this. Yeah. So now I'll create a property called as URL, which is a string. Right, I am not writing a default value because I want it to be a mandatory property. Whenever you don't write a default, it becomes a mandatory property. And then action, deploy, do. So whenever you are trying to deploy, what is that you do? You will have a URL. So you will try to say that remote underscore file, path to the file. Let us assume that it is in a Tomcat and we know the location of the Tomcat. So var lib Tomcat 7 slash web apps. All right. Okay. And then let us assume that we need to write one more property. Okay. File name. Let us assume that this is the stuff. Yeah. Okay. And then I want a file name over here. So how will I write it? Hash. Okay. And then what is the source file? Done. You will have one more action which calls as delete, where you remove that file. Can't you do that? Yeah. So now if someone wants to use this, how will he use it? So what is my cookbook's name? lwrp demo underscore. What is my resources name? var deploy. Right. And what are the properties which you have over here? You have URL. You will give some URL https colon whatever it is, wherever the file is. And then you will tell file name. File name something like openmrs dot war file. Action, deploy. Simple? Yeah. Are we clear on how to write custom resources? Yeah. Earlier to this, for example, if you are speaking about writing custom resources 1.5 years ago in Chef, that was not this much simple because you had to literally write Ruby code over there. You had to define a Ruby block, import Ruby statements over there, bring in Chef namespaces over there, and then you had to write it. But now they have simplified, right? Okay, fine then. So is this clear? We have one last thing. Okay, let us see how much we can pull out of it. But at least Chef has documented this time. Chef unattended bootstrap. Okay. Okay. So do you agree that we can run some script while creating the machine for the first time in cloud machines? Yes or no? Yes. Yeah. And that is basically called as user data or cloud init generally. In the world of AWS, we call it as user data. And in the case of Azure and other clouds, we generally call it as cloud init. Cloud init is a script which is executed for the first time whenever you are creating a virtual machine in the cloud. Okay. So here you are looking at two scripts over here. One is with respect to PowerShell. The other one is with respect to the Bash. Okay. I'm not going to speak a word about it, but create a Linux machine. Create a Linux machine. And are you seeing the manual steps over here? Yes. Run through this. Okay. Before you come to the next class, because this is what we'll be doing in the next class. Yeah. These two things. And for the people who wanted Windows bootstrapping, right? How does it sound like? You already have a script for Windows bootstrap. So if you want to bootstrap a Windows node, this is how you are supposed to do it. Am I clear on this? We'll speak about it in the next class. But before that, if you remember, couple of days ago, I've asked you to do one, what do you say, one activity with respect to Chef client. Did you had a time to look at that? what chef underscore client cookbook is capable of? Yes or no? No, it is your choice. I'm not worrying about it. For the people who are yes, do you have any queries about it? ఇంకా చూడలేదంటే షెఫ్లో మీరు ఇంటర్వ్యూలో దాని గురించి అడగకుండా ఇంటర్వ్యూ కంప్లీట్ అవ్వదు. నేను మళ్ళీ చెప్తున్నాను, మీకు ఇష్టం ఉంటే చూసుకోండి, కష్టం ఉంటే మానేయండి. For the people who have looked into it, if you have any queries, you can reach me out on that, right? So any questions for the people who had looked into that? If not, it's your career, not mine. I'm least bothered. Okay, so I'm telling you 3 things out of it. For the people who have started working on it, just find a solution for those 3 things in the chef client cookbook, because those are the most really widely used scenarios out of it. First thing is changing the convergence time. How can you change the convergence time? Second thing is, how can I run basically a convergence at the same time in more than one node? How can I run convergence exactly at the same time, basically on multiple machine nodes? Generally, what happens in Chef? Whenever we bootstrap, Chef clients get installed. Yes or no? The moment Chef clients installs, that's a point where the cycle starts, where the timer starts, right? And whenever you are executing naive bootstrap commands, you cannot have 2 machines bootstrapped at the same time. So whenever they converge, they might not be converging at the same time. They might be converging at different times. They might have a difference of 1 or 2 minutes. So if your interviewer asks you, I want all of my 100 machines to converge at the same time, how can you do that? The answer of that is Chef client. Look at that, right? How can I change the log location of Chef? Whenever Chef is doing some activity, it is storing the logs, but I want logs to be stored at different place. Find these 3 answers at least, మొత్తం చదివే ఓపిక లేకపోతే, and these are definitely required for you for looking into certifications, looking into interviews, because chef interviewers will definitely be interested in that, right? And for the people who are already know it, look into log rotation. 4 major use cases of chef client cookbook. Okay, am I clear on this? Right? Tomorrow also I expect you to run something on this. I am okay if you guys are into failures, but I want you to try and come on this stuff, right? Because once we finish on this, we need to discuss about some of the Windows specific resources. There are some, we have been using Linux resources largely in the classroom, something like package and all of that stuff. We have Windows underscore package, we have Chaco underscore package, we have some Windows resources to speak on. So that's what our focus will be in the next class. Am I clear? Yeah. So there is some question. Okay, so that's what I had for the day. We'll meet tomorrow to discuss the rest of the aspects which is majorly focused towards Windows. Before that, try to look into this unattended bootstrapping, because this is also most popularly asked scenario, saying that I have 100 machines in cloud and they are auto scaling. How do you expect me to install Chef there? The answer is this: you go with unattended bootstrapping. And are you seeing this script? This script you will copy into your AWS or Azure accounts before you start the machine, and your machines will become a Chef node. That's what you do. So that's why this scenario is important. Go through it. I am okay even if you fail, but I want you to try this one out. Whenever I am saying something, నేను షెఫ్ మొత్తానికి మిమ్మల్ని ఎన్నిసార్లు అడుగుంటాను? 3 సార్లు అడుగుంటాను. రోజు ఇది చేసిరండి, అది చేసిరండి అని అడగను కదా. When I'm trying to tell that there is something which I want you to look at, there might be very strong reason behind it. Yes, because otherwise 15 days later you people will come and ask to me the same questions which I have asked. సార్ ఇంటర్వ్యూకి వెళ్ళాను, 20 మెషిన్లు ఉన్నాయన్నారు, 10 ఒక టైంలో 10 ఇంకో టైంలో బూట్ స్ట్రాప్ చేయాలన్నారు, ఎలాగా? These are all the facts. These are all learnings which I had from the past, right? Chef client, look at this bootstrap. This is especially asked in a companies where they are working on cloud and Chef. So whenever you go into this environments where your organization is using cloud and Chef, then they definitely ask about this scenario, because the thing that worries them is auto scaling. In auto scaling, any machine can come up at any time and any machine can die at any time. So how do I ensure that all the machines which are coming up will become my Chef nodes? For that, you need to understand this aspect. Okay, fine then. So we'll meet tomorrow to start from here, discuss about Windows aspect. Yes. You don't need a starter kit for local chef. You can directly run a cookbook. If you have a local chef server, you don't have any authentication. You are already authenticated. You don't need any stuff. We are using a starter kit in Chef because we have a validator.pem. That's it. Yeah. Okay then. So that's what I had. And the local chef, right, is majorly used for provisioning, right? Just Google for using chef as provisioning in local machine. You will easily find out the steps. You have to just call it, right? And there is a specific syntax for doing it. Okay. So we will be using that in Terraform. Yeah. Okay then. Thanks for your time.